team over at Battlefield 6 did announce they're going to have a quick Battlefield Labs testing again for some things coming up in next week's update. Now, of course, this testing did go on yesterday, December the 2nd. It says it's going to be a small test of a 2-hour window. This test will be a preview of what players can expect from a December the 9th Battlefield 6 update, and will be conducted on the Conquest and Escalation versions of Eastwood and Operation Firestorm. Now, this test is really to gather feedback on the combat improvements the team has been making. They've been working on things, they said, like Footstep audio that improves distance perception, surface definition, and enemy audibility. Also, network and hit registration changes are also being tested that should result in more consistent interactions and better responsiveness during close quarters and high intensity combat. Battlefield Studios also notes that there will be broader adjustments across key combat systems. Now, the biggest takeaway here, I know a lot of people say they have issues with sound inside of the game. For me personally, the footsteps are okay. I play on the PS5, and I'm not really had a big issue with footsteps. Every once in a while, I'll have that weird encounter where you can't hear footsteps at all. But for the most part, it usually works as intended. The issue I have been having is when you don't hear vehicles whatsoever. There will actually be a tank driving up on you, and you do not hear it whatsoever. It's like it's completely silent. So hopefully that will make some improvements to that as well. I assumed that was some type of audio bug, but I'm not quite sure. They mainly kind of discuss footstep issues here, but hopefully that will be addressed as well in this. I've seen other people have those comments as well where they said they cannot hear vehicles, and I've seen a lot of people say they cannot hear footsteps. So hopefully both things will get fixed within this. But I think the main thing here will be the issue with bullet registration. The network and hit registration has been kind of weird inside of Battlefield 6. And I'm sure most of you have noticed that you can get in a game with a perfectly fine ping, no packet loss or anything, especially if you have your kind of data stuff turned on in game where you can see all of that info. I can get in a lot of games where I can have around a 8 to 20 ping, but I'm consistently getting some type of error code up in the top corner from the game saying something is not working as intended. And a lot of times those games run perfectly smooth. There's nothing wrong there. And then other times I can get into games where my ping could be a little bit higher, for example, let's say like 30. But I never have any of those network issue things pop up in the top corner of the screen. But the game's bullet registration feels really off. You can absolutely just unload into an enemy, and it's like it never registers. So the hitbox issues, the registration issues have been somewhat of a problem in the game since the launch, in my opinion. I know some people have had worse experiences with it than others. But overall, I think we all can say at some point or another during the life cycle so far of Battlefield 6, we've probably experienced those issues where combat just does not seem to work as intended. It seems like the hit registration is just way off. They're talking about a lot of close quarters and high intensity combat here. I have noticed close quarters issues when this goes on. And I'm assuming when they say high intensity combat, they're meaning a lot of people around, a lot of explosions, buildings falling down, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on screen, and that could be one of the key issues here. So we'll have to wait and see if that gets fixed as well. Desync has also been another issue. They have worked on that off and on since the game launched. Hopefully they will continue to work on that as well. They talked about in the months ahead they will use Battlefield Labs to look at a broader range of early concepts and experimental scenarios that benefit from real player insight. Battlefield Studios stated that beyond that, they're preparing future lab sessions that explore changes to map layout, pacing, and alternate team compositions, such as a smaller player count or vehicle-focused setups. I don't know if they really mean reducing the player count on all maps. I know a lot of people are going to hear that and get kind of worried that they're going to reduce the player count in all modes, kind of like they did within Breakthrough. And I know that's been a big issue in Breakthrough. A lot of people did not like when they reduced the player count from 64 players in Breakthrough. Now, some of the maps I understand, but a lot of the maps I do not. I might could see them reducing the player count slightly, not by a whole 10 or 20 or something like that on some of these smaller, like real small maps to help with, you know, performance issues. But overall, I think if they start reducing the player count too much, that could be a problem. We went from a long time ago, you know, if you played Battlefield on console, it was 12 on 12. And then the only way you could get that 64 player experience was on PC. Then once Battlefield 2042 came out, they said they wanted to go with an even bigger experience, 100 and what was it, 28 players, something like that, 64 on 64. That did not work out very well, and then they reduced it back to 64 players, so 32 on 32. I still think 32 on 32 is probably the sweet spot for the game. Where some maps there could be a bit of variation there. I don't know exactly what they're going to do with player composition going forward. The main thing here that I like the sound of is the change of map layouts and pacing, because I know there's been a lot of complaints in the community about the game feels too fast on certain maps, pacing wise, but also I feel like some of the maps were laid out to be a bit too linear at times. It feels like they're not really like small maps. I mean, they're decent size, but overall you're fighting on certain lanes and you really don't have a lot of ways to flank or anything like that. And I think the maps could be looked over and maybe reworked within how they are laid out for combat scenarios. Leave me a comment with your thoughts. Let me know what you think. And of course, if you like the video, hit the like. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. And I'll catch you next time. Peace.